Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on automating business processes with NITRO Studio forms and workflows. I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crocaine Software. We have been in business almost 21 years, and we have been providing applications for Microsoft platforms for that time. And we've been in the SharePoint world, well, it's probably going on 12 or 15 years now, and the Office 365 space ever since it came into existence. And what we're doing with Crocaine Software, we have business applications, out-of-the-box applications, common core business applications like help desk, asset management, purchasing, HR, onboarding, contract management, facilities management, the ones that most businesses use, and we develop those in the SharePoint and Office 365 environment so that they're ready to go. They're basically ready to go out of the box applications, and a number of our customers are using those all around the world. We also have the NITRO Studio, which is an application creation platform where you can build your own. And that's what we'll be talking about during this webinar. And we also do custom solutions for people because it's no one size fits all, so it's quite common that we're tailoring either one of our existing applications or developing applications using NITRO Studio for customers. We have offices in California, Rhode Island, and Hyderabad, India. That gives us a worldwide coverage for support and dealing with our customers. Most of our customers are in North America and Europe. We do have customers in South Africa, in Dubai, in India, Singapore, Australia, Japan. So pretty widespread of global reach here of our business, and we have, basically anybody using SharePoint and Office 365 can use our software, so people do find that useful all around the world. We are a California certified small business and doing business with the state of California and government agencies, county, state, city, and local governments, and utilities and transportation districts and that kind of thing. And not only in California, but throughout the whole U.S. We work with the U.S. military, for example, and some offices of the U.S. government. And we also work with foreign agencies also, for like in Canada and UK. We're also a Microsoft preferred business applications partner. We're part of their business application program, and we're a preferred partner of them. We gained that status a couple of years ago. So we work closely with Microsoft, keep up to date on all their latest and greatest. And we attend a lot of shows. This spring is very busy, going to different shows throughout the country. And there's a list of those on our events on our website, and perhaps we'll see you at one of those. This webinar is part of a series we're doing this January, February, and March. And the first one was about replacing InfoPath forms, topic we've been harping on for quite some time. We have a number of resources on that. And then we're going to do we're doing the webinar today, obviously. And then the one in March will be on limitations and costs of using Microsoft's Power Platform. To put that Power Platform into perspective, we'll talk about some of the things and issues with that in March. Today, we're talking about the NITRO Studio. Last month, on demand, you can find our webinar we have on replacing InfoPath forms. We have a whole set of information and resources on it on our website. We have a website, it's an InfoPath replacement. We have a guide. We have an ebook that you can download on InfoPath replacement if that's your concern, and your interest in this webinar. We have a lot of projects in place going already. And if you do want this ebook, just send us an email. Send it to sales@crocanyon.com. And we'll get you the ebook. Say, I want the ebook. But if you have any InfoPath replacement projects, talk to us directly. We have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge on it. We also are working with people to replace access forms and databases that have outgrown their usefulness, and people want to move those kind of functionality, those kind of applications into SharePoint or into Office 365, and we're working with people on that. And there's a blog we just did recently on the benefits of replacing access forms with NITRO Studio and Office 365. So I won't delve too much into those topics today. I want to focus on the NITRO Studio. So what we're dealing with here is business process, automating business processes. And it's a concern of any organization and many, many different departments in those organizations. We have request management, whether you call it a request, an issue, a problem, a complaint, a need, whatever you want to call a question, an inquiry. It doesn't really matter. It's you have to manage some kind of input from users or customers or members or citizens. And it could be inside the IT department where there's trouble tickets and maintaining assets and tracking inventory. It could be facilities where there's moves, fixes, new hires. It could be contract and document management. It could be HR with onboarding. HR, certainly a lot of forms and management going on there with onboarding, leave requests, purchasing, departments, and there's many others. Marketing has, marketing collateral to deal with, or office administration, or so there's many uses for business process automation within an organization. So we look at some other ways other than SharePoint that people are using to manage requests, and this is where we start to see the process break down a little bit. If people are using emails and spreadsheets, then they're very limited in collaboration. It's hard to track. They get lost in the inbox, or the spreadsheet isn't accessible when it needs to be. Maybe you can't find it on a mobile device, or it's in one network share you don't have access to. There's all kinds of problems. If you're using paper forms, you're dealing with manual processing. There's obvious problems with paper. I think everyone can see that quite easily. There's legacy systems that are using outdated technology, and I've been looking at this a lot with the InfoPath forms. That's a really important one to, a whole subject in itself. Access forms, Lotus Notes, these are all ones that are slowing you down if you're still using them and you're not moving into the cloud mobile world that Office 365, SharePoint, and our NITRO Studio offers. They may work okay, those legacy systems, to some degree, but you're missing a lot of features and new technology that will accelerate what you're doing. And then sometimes you get into enterprise software and it ends up being expensive to maintain and feature overkill, and people don't really want to use it. So then we look to SharePoint. Well, SharePoint out of the box has a number of features that are really useful, and it gives a great foundation for starting this kind of business process automation techniques. It's site collections, lists, libraries, permissions, not only columns permissions, but the whole permissioning regime of SharePoint, integration with AD and the rest of the SharePoint and Microsoft stack there, filters on lists. You can do a lot with SharePoint out of the box, but not enough. You need more. You need forms, workflows, portals, custom columns, email sync, database integration. So what I'm saying here is you need a better way to present a form. You need perhaps a portal for users to engage with it. You need workflows that are easy to set up and maintain and enhance and work well. You probably need custom columns like cascading lookups, or associated items, or user info fillers, and those kind of special columns that make the automation happen, that automate the repetitive task and streamline the functionality. Email synchronization, where the email comes in and is converted to a new request. And this is all features that we have inside of our NITRO Studio. We have the reporting, database integration, working with APIs, working with web services. So NITRO Studio brings you the forms, workflows, reporting, portals, modern UI, chatbots, that's another one, AI services, database integration, runs in Office 365, SharePoint 2013, 2016, and 2019. So what I'm making here is a strong case for why this business process automation is important, why we got to give it serious consideration, and what tools are best to use for this. And if you're in the SharePoint world and in the Office or the Office 365 world, that's a good start, but you need to add on other element of the NITRO Studio, which is what we have to offer, as a way to really bring it into the full expression that's possible as a business process automation tool. So to give you a little kind of graphical insight into what we're talking about here, we have this NITRO application layer. At the bottom, we have SharePoint or Office 365. Those are what these symbols are. That's kind of saying the base layer. Then on top of that, we put on our forms, workflows, action portals, and all the other things that are part of NITRO Studio. And out of that, we're able to generate these ones at the top that are highlighted here, the help desk, asset management, and these are listed on our website, and we can show you demos of these at any time. In fact, encourage my audience at any time to contact sales@crocanyon.com or give us a call, and we'll set up demos specifically of what might be particularly of interest in these particular areas. So we can see, you can see there's a number of those core business applications that I talk about that are like common to many, almost all organizations. You need a help desk, customer support, the work order management, onboarding, contract renewal, all those kind of things ready to go out of the box. But the other option is you can take the NITRO application layer, or our studio, and move it and start building your own applications that meet your specific purposes. So a lot of times InfoPath forms will have specific purposes, or access databases, or paper forms, or other emails and spreadsheets you want to replace. Well, maybe they don't fit one of those pre-built applications, and now what you want to do is build your own. And the NITRO Studio allows you to do that by giving you a forms designer, a workflow manager, a custom actions, and many other features, which we'll go into in a moment here. What I have here is what NITRO Forms has in it. Now, this is from our ebook. Like I said, send us an email. We'll send you the download link for this PDF. It's a really cool looking ebook. Jocelyn did some great designs on it. But anyways, here's about NITRO Forms and showing you some of the features that come Now, this is not out-of-the-box SharePoint. This is our NITRO Studio giving you dynamic forms, responsive design that shows up on mobile, portable form templates that you can move from list to list. You can have linked items, so a project or a task, a project or a ticket or request could have multiple subtasks associated with it. You've got repeating rows, like in purchasing, you keep adding on more and more and more purchase items or whatever, a document integration or whatever. Custom actions is really powerful, because then you can have buttons on the form that will initiate certain activities. And I can show you some of that, and we can show you that in a NITRO Studio demo if we address a specific function you want to achieve in your necessity, in your application you're building. We have portal interfaces, database integration, pulling information from SQL and other databases into the form, so it's there and at the fingertips, given that view of relevant information available. Electronic signatures, and there's more. We've fit 9 of these on here, so we put 9 of the most relevant ones, but there's a lot more to it. There's scripting, custom JavaScript. There's all kinds of activities that can go on the form that it's really a powerful tool for building forms, and I'll get to some of that today by the end of this webinar. Also, we have the NITRO workflows and custom actions that drive business processes forward. Again, trying to get that whole business process automation going with the 2 things. One is workflows, one is custom actions. Workflows are automated by system events, such as items created or items modified, or certain timer events every 1 day before the due date, or the contract's expiring in 1 month. So 1 month before it, you're going to start some workflow that initiates the renewal of that contract. Custom actions are user initiated with buttons on the form or in the ribbon where you are in the form itself and you say, I want to escalate this, I want to do something with it, reassign it or whatever, and that will print or something like that, and that will be available by a button on the form. And you can do processes such as approvals, escalations, auto assignment, task management, notifications and alerts, schedule reports, document generation, say you got to generate an invoice or a PO, integrate with external systems. So those are 2 things that we're talking, well, really 3 if you include forms, workflows, and custom actions, but there's much else included in NITRO Studio that you get as part of the tool, because we want to give you a full application creation platform, and you get portals, either in a modern or classic UI, reports and dashboards. You have AI services, which is something new we've been introducing in the last year or so with team bots and natural language processing. This is all just driving that goal of business process automation here, of making your job easier, your organization more efficient, list formatting and how the lists are displayed, email management. This is all part of NITRO Studio. It's a lot here, and why we're so excited about offering this. There's email manager with custom responses, canned responses, you're capturing the full email history of the interaction with the customer, and that's great for auditing purposes, as well as, of course, the efficiency of moving the process along, but also auditing, the full conversation you're having. Email synchronization is where an email sent in and is converted into a new request or ticket, and that could be used for external customers as well as internal employees. List rollup, list search, list view. We have all those possibilities of displaying the list data in many ways that are relevant, important, and pertinent. Modern UI, a set of web parts that enhance modern UI web pages. If you're in Office 365, that's becoming more and more used in Office 365, it's the modern UI. In the print manager is very powerful to print out a lot of different forms. There's a lot of places you can take this. So the whole goal of this is business process automation, so you can generate the tools you need to automate processes you need to automate over there. Let me go over to the next screen here and keep moving along. There is a set of forms that we have in our form showcase. I want to show you what's possible with the NITRO forms here. So these are some forms in our form showcase. You can go to NITRO Studio, look at the form showcase. Let me show you some of the things that we do here. Using NITRO Studio Form Designer, you can create forms that look like any of these things I'm going to show you. By the different elements we have in the Form Designer, you're able to set up, for instance, this multiple choices or these 2 columns or all this kind of structure that you're seeing here is set up. And this doesn't have to be the plain gray background. It could be much more colorful, but this is a fairly perfunctory, useful form. And so you might have a form that you're using in InfoPath or paper and you want to replicate it. And we've taken our NITRO Studio to the place where you can replicate those forms pretty much exactly, while again, the benefits of using an electronic system that's available on mobile devices also. So here's another form for access to data records. These are all created in NITRO Studio. And so if you have a form you want to create, there, send it to us, give us a challenge. We call it the Great Forms Challenge. Send it over and we'll see if we can create it and how it can be done in NITRO Studio. And so far, we haven't had any problems with that. You can see, these kind of complex forms with different boxes and usefulness. I'm gonna go through a few more of these. Here's one with a little color on it. These came from somewhat from forms of we got from our customers and projects we did. Of course, in a real project, you'd have your actual logo up here, not the Crow-Canyon software. Here's other things, about different ways you can arrange. I mean, if you're ever done form design, you'll probably see that this is quite sophisticated how you can lay it and the layouts that we can do with NITRO Studio. And also, if you notice that this one has a signature box, you can come in. Oh, this is just an image, but if it was a real form, I could sign this either on my web phone, on the phone, or the desktop. This is one that someone in our company really took the nth degree. You all recognize the W4 form. You can see that this is what we did with NITRO forms to come up with a NITRO version of the W4. It's quite a nice expression use of the NITRO Studio. Travel extent form with the ability to upload documents and attach it. Then we have the another simpler form right here, and here's a pickup and delivery form right here. So I just want to show you some of the variety of forms we can do with the NITRO Studio here, and that's a lot of those are in our form showcase. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to an actual system itself and start working from there. So let me get that screen up. And oh, by the way, if you have any questions, there's a question box there that you can put in questions, and we're going to try and handle them during the event, or after. We'll get to them as best we can on that. And Jocelyn, pipe in anytime there's a question that you think I should answer in real time or as we go through it. Okay. So now we're looking at an access request system that I created. We created kind of as a demo. And what happens here is this is in a modern UI, and it's an Office 365 environment and access request. So I want to show you some of the elements of the forms in the program. You can see up here we have the NITRO forms in the toolbar in the modern UI. Custom actions. Of course, it also shows up in the classic. If I want to switch to classic, return the classic, I could. Conditional formatting, print. These are some of our stuff right here in NITRO forms. So let's see what a form looks like. It could look like whatever you want it to look like. I showed you some examples a minute ago, but this is what this particular form is kind of simply looks like. There's just an access request, title, what type of access, and then you can come in here and say you want it to be a database of a SQL. Well, I set this up so that it will now show this new section where you're talking about, you're entering information about what's server, what SQL database name and server and all that, and what permissions you need. And notice also the submit button showed up. So what this is demonstrating in this simple access request form is that if you are on like one kind of request, you may just need access to that, and you don't need that SQL information, or you could have maybe need GoToMeeting information would show up down below here, or PeopleSoft information or something like that. But what I set up here is when you go to a database, SQL, it's going to ask you for the SQL information right here. And then it has a manager, and when a person pushes the submit button, it's going to go to that manager and ask and send them that they need to approve this request. So you can see that then they can go in, and I believe this one is up for approval. Let me check. And let me see if it is here. It should have the approve database, the access to database SQL. I mean, this one must have been already approved because it doesn't show up. But here it is that once it's been submitted, the access request, the proper people are notified. The person can get an auto reply. You can set up subtask if you want. All these actions can kick off with our workflow manager when a request is submitted through this interface. And you can see that this has been running for a while. It's been assigned to it should have been assigned to somebody, but there's a set of associated tasks here that are assigned to particular people, and then the request can move along because this task is people are being notified that they now need to give permission to this user. They now need to update the database, or whatever the process is for the particular access request in order to fill it. And then when it's completed, you can send back the information to the end user, or to the end user and his or her manager, to know that was completed. This is kind of a fairly simple access request system that's implemented in NITRO Studio.
Scott, we have a question.
Yes.
Is there a database in the backend for receiving content after people submit?
Yeah, well, the database is the SharePoint list. So the list function, list is essentially a database, so it functions here, and that's what we're looking at right now is the information right here from that so-called quote-unquote database, which is the SharePoint list. We're seeing all this fields and presenting them here in this interface here, which of course, if you know SharePoint, can be highly manipulated to show only certain kinds of requests that are unassigned or assigned to me or high priority and all that. So yeah, that does have that. Oh, that does have a database in the back end. So then in this access request system, we have the NITRO Studio running behind it. The NITRO Studio for access request system has all these elements in it that give you the ability to manipulate and modify and enhance, or however you want to configure, whatever the best word you want to use on that, the system behind it. So if you're building it on your own, then you could take the NITRO Studio right here and start building the forms and workflows and reports and everything else that's listed here, the many, many features of NITRO Studio, in order to make the application work and function the way you want. If you're using one of our existing applications, you get all this also. So you start with a lot of pre-existing information. For instance, here's a request management system. I'll switch over to it for a moment. And here you have all this stuff already going on here in a request management system that's out of the box, but still you can go underneath the covers of this in the NITRO Studio for this and then manipulate it. So let's go back to this NITRO Studio for the access request system. You have forms, workflows, reporting. If I click forms, it opens up this right here, the access request form that we were just looking at. You can see the access request form is right here. And then you can go in and start modifying it in any way you want using the controls and features of the form of our NITRO Forms designer. It's going to give you the ability to change many, many features of this form. You can set it up to use tabs instead of sections if you prefer tabs. So there's tabs. You can change quickly to there. Now there's a lot in this, and one thing I do not want to do in this demo is go full scale into the Forms designer, because that is something that really should be done one-on-one, where you can ask questions and there's interactivity as to, can it do this, can it do that, kind of thing. And I'm trying to give you an overview to show that there's a tremendous number of features inside this forms designer that can make this form look the way that I was showing you of those form showcase earlier. This is a fairly simple form, but already you can see there's a lot going on. This one has 2 columns. This one only shows up when the selection of category and issue type are done. So let's look at some of the high-level features of the form designer. You've got the ability to control the layouts and themes. You can change different colors if you wanted. You could change it from tabs to sections. You can decide what buttons show up, what buttons don't show up. I'm not going to get too lost in the weeds in that. There's just a lot there of what controls how the UI is of the form. There's also these other elements of any list column, any column in the list, you can take here and drag onto the form and then have that part of the form. Let's say you want resolution notes right here for some reason. So you just drop it right here. Let's put it right here, resolution notes. Now resolution notes is part of this form, and it will appear once you publish it. And in there, you may even want resolution question up here. Of course, you probably wouldn't want this on the new form. You'd want it more on the edit form. But just to show you how easy it is to add and remove these different columns. Now, if you wanted this to be a little different, you want to override display name and say something else, we need your input here. It will do it, I mean, we can change the label like that easily. We could also put a description in. We could require that it contains information. We could have the field show or not show according to permissions of who you are, or different values are selected, like maybe for add, you want some fields to show, for modify, you want others. So you can really manipulate this in very dynamic show and display of this form. So you can make cascaded lookups, like the category and access type or cascaded lookups. You can do many, just about anything you want to do on a form, you could do with this tool that we have here right in front of us. So I don't want those on there, so I'm gonna take those off. It's all that simple, just click it. Now, if you might want to do something here where you say, well, I want to configure this section of the form and give it a different color. So maybe the background here would be like you want it to be more green. So let's just do that. And all of a sudden it turns green behind there. Maybe you want to do something like change where the labels are positioned. I haven't tried this. Let's see what it looks like. So now it's like this instead. Maybe you want 2 columns there instead of 1. So it's very easy to manipulate this in different sections in different ways and get the style and design you want on it. You see, that is that is where you start to go with this form. You can also go up here and put up some HTML up here that has an image in it, and then that image will show up an icon up here. It can be, many ways to manipulate this. Now, there's other features that is quite cool. You can add a table. If you want to put a table in here, you can put a table and then start to use that to, let's drop table right here. And then you can put the fields in different sections like this and give you an enormous amount of control over how the form is laid out. You have, you can insert a column to the left, to the right, merge cells. You have each cell as a property table. So you can see that table alone would be something where we could have a demo of how exactly to manipulate this form to look exactly how you want. Talking a lot about UI, which is very important because, like I said, in the business process automation, it's people engaging with the system. So you want to get the data you need in a form that's attractive and useful and interesting to them. I'll leave it in this kind of state and go into the actions. Here we have the script actions and submit actions. You can add buttons right here if you want to add in the middle of here, some button for some reason. It could be get membership data from member database right here and run a script that contacts the database and pulls in the information and fills out certain fields in there. So let me cancel this and go back. I'm getting all these changes. Let me go back and then go back to the NITRO forms and start that from a kind of clean slate, so I don't have all that green and colors going on there. So if you did want to change this form, you just go to NITRO forms there and open it up, and it's going to load the forms designer, and then you could go in and modify it. And where it's the way you want it, you just publish it, and everybody sees the new form there.
Scott, I have a couple of questions coming in.
Yeah.
Would you like to be interrupted now, or
sure?
wait a
If it's relevant to forms designer, yeah, why not?
This one is we don't have an on-premise SharePoint, only Office 365. So can we use NITRO Studio?
Yeah, I mean, let me make that clear. You can use SharePoint 2013, 2016, or 2019, or Office 365. Any one of those 4 environments work independently of each other. You don't need any combination of those. You need one of them, but you don't need any combination. You could have a combination, but you don't need it. So if you have only Office 365, that's what I'm running in right now. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear, but I was trying to say that we run on premises, which Power Platform doesn't. So it's a big advantage for us. But we also fully capable in the Office 365, independent of any on premises. So I hope that answers that question. If not, let us know. Other ones, Jocelyn, are we good? Or
I think keep going. There's a question about price plan of how much does NITRO cost, and I think that's something you'll get to a little bit later as you go.
Yeah, well, that's where contact sales, and we'll leave that to the salespeople to talk to them about that.
Okay.
And leave that to them. Okay. So then there's actions you can add on. So you could add a script action, a submit action. And I already added a submit action here that will operate when the SQL server is selected, and that will go through an approval process right there. There's also form settings where you can set up different fields. So here, autofill user information means when I open up this form, it's filling in all this information from Active Directory or user profile automatically. Again, automating repetitive tasks. Who wants to type all that stuff in? You can have lookup settings where you do these cascaded lookups. You can have associated items where you have what tasks are related to this request. You have external data columns where you can pull information from SQL and other databases, and you could add a signature pad on here. If we look at the edit version of this form right here, I switch over to that here, the edit form. We have associated tasks right here. You can see that these are related tasks that are related to this project, so that when you're in this project or in this request management, you now have tasks that are associated and related to it, so that you can set up kind of like a mini project. It could be a full-scale project, but even a request can have multiple projects. Onboarding obviously requires a lot of different tasks, or sometimes purchase request requires a bunch of different tasks. And you can set up different tasks, and if they are completed, that closes the ticket, or the ticket can't be closed until the ticket's completed. And meanwhile, each one stands on itself with its own notification and processing regime, so that the person who is assigned that task will continue to get notifications about due dates or whatever other workflows you put on there. So now let me go in here to the display. There's also a display option. And what I'll do here is put on some custom actions, and we'll start to see the power of the custom actions here. Let me just drag one over. So the custom actions are now something that you can put on the form, and then it will run some kind of activity that you define of what that workflow is. So let me show you back to the access request form. When I open one up of these, there are some custom actions on it already. Again, these are user initiated actions that are done through the toolbar. So here we have a bunch right here that's been added in this demo. So these are not on the form itself, they're up in the ribbon. So we have a save attachment to OneDrive, we have send to OneDrive, escalate, generate document, assign the request. These are set up in our NITRO Studio custom actions. So if I go back to the form itself, the list, there's an option here called custom actions. And when I open it up, it's going to go over here to custom actions. I have it already set, but if I push the button, it would have come up here. Settings for access request list for the custom actions. We have 5 actions here. Escalate, assign requests, these are all set up, and we can set up a new custom action quite easily. Let's look at what escalate does in the custom actions. So the custom actions gives you a lot of choices. This is where you really get into automation and work of making the business process flow along through simply pressing a button rather than doing a lot of changes and other. It just makes everything kind of consolidated into press this button and all this stuff happens. So we have a configuration at the top where you're deciding where you're going to display it. Do you want a confirmation message? You know, just different things. Don't worry too much about that. Those are all just obvious things for where it's going to show and how it's going to show. But what you're really looking at is you press the button, under what conditions does that button run? Well, you have the button only show certain users and groups and not for everyone, or only show the button when it reaches a certain stage. So you might say, only show that button when it's in the waiting approval. Approve and disapprove buttons would only show up when it's waiting approval. Now, after it's approved, you might have other buttons on there, like you might want escalate, you might want reassignment. So what these buttons do, you know, when they show up depends on what you put in conditions, and for whom they show up for is on the conditions. And what actions you execute is what you put right here and decide what you're going to execute. We're going to set the priority to high on that item, and you're going to send the email to James. Well, that's he's a manager of some kind. So that's what an escalation is defined as in this custom action. Well, you can do a lot of other things if you wanted. You'd adapt this escalation to be exactly what you want. So you could like update other list items. You could generate a document. I don't know if you'd want to, if that applies to escalation, but just show you the different kind of actions that are available. You could generate a document, send an email, execute a script, invoke a web service, invoke a workflow, as well as a Microsoft flow, what they call Power Automate now. You could invoke a Power Automate or a SharePoint Designer workflow. You can query a list and then use that query results later in the custom action. And you can invoke one custom action, can invoke another in a cascading manner there. So this simple list here is actually hugely powerful on what you can do and how you can really build in business process automation into the program, the application you're building using NITRO Studio. Not only the custom actions, there's also our workflow manager, and it does the same kind of thing, just they're initiated by timers or by system events, not by user initiated by pressing the button. So let's take a closer look at this one that's right here. Anyone, it really doesn't matter.
Quick question, Scott, before you dig into that. Are some of the NITRO tools not available yet? I have NITRO Studio, but I don't see a few mentions here. For example, email sync, advanced approvals, and AI.
No, they're all there. If they don't have them, maybe
it's something they need to
get in touch with us. Get in touch with us, and our team will show you where they are, or if they were, maybe inadvertently, who knows? And we won't know until we investigate it more, right?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. So yeah, these are great questions. Good to bring them up. So let me go over to NITRO Forms. We're looking at the display form, and we're going to add a custom action at the top now. Come back here. We're going to add a custom action at the top, and we're going to select the custom action as escalate, and we're going to apply that. In fact, I'm going to change the name to escalate. Escalate me. And you can put a different icon on there if you want, maybe an elevator or something, but I won't bother with that now, or take it off, whatever. So you applied that, and now escalate me, and if I publish this display form right here, it's going to have that escalate me button on it, running the escalate custom action. And you might want that escalate only to show up for certain people, or only under certain conditions. Like I said, you can do that if you'd like. And now we go over to escalate over to the access request program. See, I'm trying to show that there, without digging too much into the weeds, we can love to get into the weeds and the details of it in one-on-one demos, because then I can, we really can have this, iterative back and forth conversation about, can you do this? Can you do that? Can it do this? Can it do that? And that's really important to understand if it's going to fully fit your needs. Replace your InfoPath forms, your access forms, or your paper forms, or automate processes that aren't even automated in the first place. So you can see where I just escalate me is right here, right now. And it's going to run the escalate action. You sure you want to do it? That's one of the confirmation was yes. You don't have to have that up there, but one of the options in custom actions is to ask for a confirmation. Then it's going to escalate. It's going to set priority to high, or it is high. It's going to send an email to James. And I could have something like assign it to somebody and do all these other things in there if I wanted to. And then it's going to close and finish, and that escalation ran. And those things were done that I just talked about right there. Now, another thing that I find interesting is generate document. So you can come in here and generate a document. There's another custom action set up in that custom actions tool. It's going to generate a document, access request certificate, and add it as an attachment. You have it show right now as a PDF or email it, but in this case, we had it added as an attachment, and it's going to show up here as a certificate of access. It's a PDF. We approve, it shows this is a format of our printing that came out. You could do it in other designs of your template. You could print to an Excel or Word template if you want, but it printed this. And then what we added here, just to show, show off a little, we can send this attachment to OneDrive. So it will take that attachment and save it to OneDrive and put it up there and save it, or a document library if we press that action. Because what we're showing here is it's really activating invoking a workflow of a Microsoft Flow, what they used to call Flow, now they call it Power Automate, but the same idea. We're invoking that and sending it from, a certificate that was saved here can now go into OneDrive for storage. So it might be a purchase order in another world of purchase order request, a purchase request. You might generate a purchase order, or you might generate an invoice. You might generate other kind, maybe someone took a training course. You want to take a certificate of completion, and then you want to store those in a particular document library. You could, and just send it up there to OneDrive, or actually to Dropbox or Box or any of those other connectors you want to make. You could do that kind of stuff with our system. So we're trying to make these as fully integrated and connected as possible to other systems. It's part of a larger system. Who are we going to assign this to? Let's assign it to James. And I could do it that way. Of course, you could just type it right in there. So now it's assigned to him, and he'll get a notice when it's assigned. And now it's no longer unassigned; it's assigned to James. It should have changed unassigned to assigned. I have to look at that custom action. But anyway, that's just a detail of the custom action. So when you have this right here, you also have these associated tasks I was talking about, which are linked to this access request. So, okay, so that's a lot about the forms. Hopefully it's whetting your appetite a little bit to look into this more and find out more information from us about it. And then we can go into details of what you need in your forms. You saw some of the form showcase that I showed earlier. One thing I want to pop into before we end the webinar today is some other aspects of the NITRO Studio.
Okay, wait, before you do that, one last question.
Yes, Jocelyn.
It's coming in.
That's okay. I like questions.
There's a couple. These are good. So does this run on top of Flow, or is it unrelated? Would be one.
It's unrelated, but we can integrate with Flow if needed. We have this webinar we did last spring called Microsoft Flow and Power Apps. Microsoft Flow and NITRO Studio, best friends forever, showing that. Let me show you in the custom actions just briefly without getting too level into detail. If you do this action called Invoke Workflow, one of the options that you can configure quite easily here is a Microsoft Flow. So you just put in some of the details about the flow, which you get from when you create the flow, and then it will run that. So you're going to invoke a workflow. So you'll invoke a flow. That's exactly what we did with the custom action right there of generate document. Let me go back to that and show, access denied. I don't know. Okay, let's go here and go back to custom actions through this. Notice that there's many other components of NITRO Studio that I'm not even touching on here. And that's why That's why we need to have a one-on-one demo with you guys so we can show you this, or come to a show or something, because there's so much you can do with this. It's just crazy, and it's good. It's all good and crazy in a good way, you know. And it's just fun. We do this all day long. We have a lot of fun with it, making these things happen for people, for our customers, to give those kind of benefits. I mean, that's why I put that part earlier in the webinar. There's a benefit to doing this to your organization and possibly to your job, to make life easier and things run more automated. Our goal is not to make things more complicated or make difficult. Once you set these things up, bada bing, you've got these automation going, and you're moving into this cloud, mobile friendly world. Or if you're on premises, you're automating stuff that was done in emails or spreadsheets or paper or outdated InfoPath forms or whatever. Fun stuff. Anyway, where was I? I was saying,
okay,
wait a minute, I want to show this send to OneDrive thing. You know, here, see,
Great.
in this case, you're invoking a Microsoft flow that blah, 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 whatever this stuff is. And then you go there, and it's able to send that to OneDrive, a particular place in OneDrive to the attachment that is running on your, that was attached to that item. Okay, what, Jocelyn? Here.
Another question that came in is, does this offer the forms in a mobile device interface?
Yeah.
We do, on our Facebook page, actually have a video of a form being developed on one of our sales guys' phones. You could definitely take a look at that. But then, and I forwarded that on, but is it possible for users to access the forms offline and then submit later when they have online access?
No, we don't have offline access at this point. You have to be connected to the server. That's a good point for future development. Thanks. You know, yeah, it requires a like really a local app on the iOS or the Android or whatever. So it's a little bit more involved than simply just creating a different. But let me show you something in the Forms Designer here. Where were we? Yeah. Let me see where it is. Design this form. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, there's a play. Oh, here it is. Display in the, in other words, you can set up different sections and different elements of this form and decide you want to display it in the desktop only, the tablet, mobile only, or both. Most often it's both, but you could make it so that you design a form specifically for the tablet and mobile. You don't have to, but sometimes people want to do that. Now, before we get too far into and we're trying to keep it to an hour, and then encourage people, if they want more information, to contact us directly and see, the excitement and interest and value of NITRO Studio and how we've really enhanced SharePoint on premises or our Office 365 with all these really cool things. And this is one thing about Crow Canyon Software. We're a relatively small company, admittedly, so we're very close with our customers. We work very directly. We see a lot of them at some of the shows, or we go on site if we have to sometimes, and work with people. And we also have partners we work with that we keep in close touch. It's kind of it isn't like a large organization where you're just a number like at all. We're very much involved, and you see a number of our case studies and people very happy with the support that we're giving. So that's always good to hear. Okay, what I want to show you here is the employee self-service portal. This is a portal that you can use, and the idea here is to get away from the SharePoint interface. Now, a person could create a ticket by sending in an email. They could go to SharePoint directly, but the goal for a lot of users is get away from that SharePoint-esque interface and go to something that's a bit more engaging and colorful and interesting and simplified. So we have this case here where we have a employee self-service portal with some options up here at the top, including submit a new ticket, view my existing tickets. Again, that's keeping everybody in the loop strategy, where they just come here and see their existing tickets and the status of them, while having to contact the service desk or help desk or the HR department to find out the status. You also can put up some knowledge base articles to them so that they can go in and search for answers themselves. We always hope people do that, and sometimes they actually do, but it's one of those things that it's a cultural thing, whether they're tempted to find information themselves or rely on submitting a ticket or making a phone call. One thing we added recently, and we just did a blog on this, kind of interesting, is a survey. You can put a survey up there. Well, you have to look at the video and the blog, crowcanyon.com/blogs. It's called Creating a Survey Using MS Forms in Office 365. Create a survey right here if you want to do a survey. integrated with our portal, pretty cool. And service catalog. So things you can do with the portal that make it more kind of almost tending towards an intranet. And we're not calling ourselves an intranet per se, but it definitely has that elements in it. And if you came in here into modern UI interface and started going in and editing this thing, you would find that you could manipulate this portal to be pretty much how you want. If you go into edit mode and you know modern UI at all, you can actually put a lot of different web parts in here. We have a number that we created for the modern UI ourselves. You can see them down here in the other section. Crow Canyons, this, that, and the other thing, reporting, report center, all that. You can add all those into the modern UI and range it the way you want. You could add in the a form and add that survey in right here in the interface. You could add in images. All this stuff you can do in the modern UI is available to arrange this portal the way you want. And we also have a classic UI portal that is useful also. So let me go here and go to republish. Yeah, okay. And then if you shrink this baby down, you're going to find that it looks, it goes into mobile mode here, and that the mobile device would show up with the mobile device here also. And then if you opened up let's say one of these tickets on the mobile device, it would show up on the mobile device like somewhat like this. You fill it out, cancel that. You can also look at your list you view your existing tickets on the mobile device if you wanted. And of course, you can set this up to be like more focused. If all your users are mobile, you would really create maybe trim down some of the stuff and focus it more for mobile. Mobile isn't magic. You have to design a form, or you have to consider elements of the form that show up well on mobile and how you're gonna manage that. But pretty much it does without, here we are just without too much manipulation, showing that all these things are possible to see on the mobile device, and open it up, and then you could close it. I solved that problem, mark it closed, sign it in the signature pad or something, and then you're good to go with that, right? So that's let's close that. So that's an element of the self-service portal there that I was talking about. I wanted to show, and in our access, we're right at the top of the hour. So any other questions, Jocelyn? Jocelyn?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'm not able to click the button fast enough. Sure. So we don't have any more questions. Does anybody have anything else they want to ask? I can read those out
come back
to Scott and to the group, or shoot them my way. But until then, we're good.
Well, what I want to point out is that we had, this one, there's so much in NITRO Studio. I always feel like I can never cover even, just tip of the iceberg, because there's so much there. But really what's important is how does this apply to your business process automation needs? And that's where we have this. It was better to have these one-on-one conversations, talk with us, talk with our sales team, or give us a call and or email, and we'll get a conversation going. It's like, can we replace your InfoPath forms or your Access databases or paper form? Is it time to move into a SharePoint-based application? We have the ones I talked about already out of the box, the IT help desk and the other core business applications. We have the NITRO Studio, which allows you to build your own, or we could work with you. You could contract with us to build some forms like that also. We're definitely replacing InfoPath forms, a huge effort on our part. And we have this webinar today. The other one's on the previous one on demand with replace InfoPath, and we have an upcoming one, limitation and costs of Microsoft's Power Platform. And let me go over here and go to, no, wrong one. We're going to go to show you some of the events we're going to soon. We're going to be on the road. We have the spring tour coming up. Crow Canyon is going to be in Redmond, Sacramento. We're not going to be in Omaha, but we're hosting that. We're sponsoring it. We're going to, if anybody's, hey, by the way, if anybody's near Branson, we do have some free passes to this collaboration summit. Branson, Missouri, if you know where it is, you know where it is. It's the middle of southern near Arkansas. Anyway, we have a few free passes still available for that. We're platinum sponsors. We're going to be at the SharePoint Fest in Washington, D.C. I'll be at Houston and Dallas. I'm going to go to both of these shows and give some presentations. I'm giving a presentation in Houston. We'll be at Vegas, the big show in Vegas. That's a big one. And then these other ones are later in the year. So we got the spring tour coming up. Time to hit the road and show people, meet people, and see what we can do. But anyway, thank you for joining this webinar. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it, and hope to hear from you. Bye-bye for now.